Hi, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's talk about the books that I read during the month of July. So this month I read 7 books, which is pretty good. It's not the best I've had, but it's definitely not the worst reading month I've ever had in my life. 7 is good, 7 is decent, and I did have some pretty good books this month, but I also had some pretty bad books this month. I think this wrap up we will talk about the books in order from worst to best. It's always really fun just to see like the progression of rankings. So I guess we'll start there. Don't really have much more of a preamble, so let's just get into it. Oh, I do want to say quickly, I forgot, I am still working on a vlog that I've been pretty much filming since the middle of June. It is almost done, and you're going to see a lot of these books in that vlog and some of the books from June as well, which I've already obviously wrapped up. Sorry about that. It will come out eventually, but I will still wrap up these books as if that vlog doesn't exist. So the worst book that I read this month was Where by Kit Reed. I picked this up for like a fun mini vlog over on TikTok. This is a short book about a group of people that live on this kind of small community, and one day about 100 of these people kind of disappear. No one knows how or when, why, and we follow perspectives from people within the community and outside of the community, and this was not good. I gave this 1.5 stars. There was nothing like super offensive, like there's nothing like problematic. It's just such a frustrating read for multiple reasons. This is multi-perspective, which is fine, and I don't think any of the characters were meant to be super likable, which I'm also fine with, but the actual writing and reading of these perspectives was not good. One of the characters is a teenage boy, and all he wants to do is like play Xbox, and he's like very much like angry and frustrated in the way that a lot of teenage boys can be, but it felt like a stereotype. We also follow some other characters that were just like, what is going on? And that leads me to my next problem, is that what is going on? I understand that I think the main purpose of this book was to show those different characters and how they react to stress and trauma, but we get no answers. If you want to know how this happened, where, why, like who's responsible for this, you get nothing. I hope that's not like a huge spoiler, but you're not going to get any answers. And then the book just ends, and it was just not a great narrative at all. It just felt like an incomplete story, which sucks. At the very least, it was very short, so I didn't really waste too much time. I thought the first chapter showed promise, but then after that, it quickly came tumbling down. This was very much not good. And it's from Tor, and Tor's shorter works typically are very good or interesting. I mean, this could have been interesting if it was written better, but yeah, I really didn't like this. I probably got it at the Goodwill, and it's going to go back there once I'm done. Next is Extremity by Nicholas Binge. I kind of picked this up on a whim. This is a mystery thriller sci-fi kind of conspiracy-esque type of story. I listened to this on audiobook. I think it was only like 5 hours long, so it's a bit of a shorter read. I gave this one 2.5 stars. Didn't enjoy this one either. I do have some qualms with the story, but this very much could have been like a me thing. I have not been able to listen to an audiobook well since December of last year. I haven't been able to focus on audiobooks. I wasn't listening to this super fast. I think I was on 1.25 speed, but that could have definitely been a factor for me. I also do think it's like a taste preference thing. I've read other books that kind of fall into a similar genre where it's like sci-fi thriller, like Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I didn't like that one either, even though a lot of people really enjoyed that one. I think this genre just might not be for me. In this book, we follow a disgraced detective who is brought back in to investigate the murder of one person twice. The police find the dead body of a very wealthy man in one place, but they find the same man in another place. Both bodies, same bodies. There is no twin. It is the same individual person who's died twice in the same evening. And that's kind of where our story starts. The first, I would say, hour of this book is that mystery, which I enjoyed. I do prefer a mystery over a thriller. And then the rest of the story, the rest of the 4 hours of the audiobook was mostly a thriller. I gave this one 2.5 stars. Again, I felt like the story wasn't super engaging, but that could have been the audiobook. But there was a big plot point in this that I just don't feel comfortable reading. I'm not saying anything bad about the author. I don't know who they are or their beliefs or whatever. But a big focal point of this story is that there is a wealthy group of men, a cabal, the author uses that term, a cabal of men who are able to get away with major crimes like fraud and like trafficking of men or women and children, sexual assault, things like that. And after political things and like the whole Epstein of it all, I'd rather just not read about like conspiracy theories like that. I know it's a very popular trope that's been done for quite some time, and this isn't the first time and it won't be the last. You've seen it in film, television, books, in real life, and that's kind of just like why I'm just like not super drawn to it, in the same way that people who lived through the pandemic don't want to read about pandemic books, and I completely respect that. It's just a topic that I don't want to touch, especially since everything. I have to wonder whether an author, a screenwriter, or whoever is coming at this plot point from a like MAGA QAnon type of way, or like a real world, we've seen it play out and nothing happens type of way. Either way, I just don't want to read about something like that. It's just not my taste. I don't consider it a trigger. It's just something that I don't like in books, which very rarely I come across. So I think it was mostly a me thing. Other people have enjoyed this. And from here on out, the rest of the books I'm going to talk about are fine or good, even great. And I would just have to like know a reader to recommend them to. But I can see why other people enjoyed them. And on some level, I like these as well. Next, I have A Wolf Steps in Blood by Tamara, Jeree. I hope that's how I pronounce the author's name. But this is a sapphic urban paranormal fantasy book. It is very short. I've been wanting to read from this author for quite some time because I've seen their covers around. I've seen some of their other books and they seem really interesting. This is just the first book that got off holds the fastest, so I picked it up. This is about a werewolf girl who is not very good at being a werewolf, and her life's not the best either. And then she meets a witch and they kind of run away together for reasons. And I didn't really like the plot all that much. It was kind of whatever, but I did like the author's writing and it did intrigue me to read more of their work. It was a bit insta-lovey, very insta-lovey, but there was a kind of warning at the beginning of the book, or like a trope list at the beginning of the book. So I knew that going in, it was kind of like soulmates insta-love. That's fine. Other people don't like that. I don't usually like it as well, but since I knew what it was going in, I kept reading. Very like pretty, but also bleak. Something about this felt kind of like Southern Gothic, kind of in the same way that Sookie Stackhouse books kind of feel Southern Gothic as well. Yeah, I think I just really like the eeriness of this book. The story, again, like I said, not great. They kind of run away together for reasons, but then they go back from where they ran away from pretty quickly afterwards. It was a short book and not much happened. I hate that type of review, but it wasn't much action going on. It was very much focused on characters, which is fine if that's what the intention was, which I think that's what it was. If you like sapphic books, give this a shot. I like the writing, like I said. Next, we have The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I didn't know if I was ever going to come back to the series because I did like the first book, but I didn't love the first book enough to like, I need to go back to this series immediately, especially since I'm in the middle of other kind of quirky, funny mystery series. But I picked this up for a like video over on TikTok, the same video where I read Where, and I had a good time reading this. I knew I would because I really like the writing and I really like the characters from the first book. I do think that the author was new at writing mysteries. I think the first book in the series was his first mystery, and that was like my biggest drawback why I didn't love the first book. But the series follows a group of older people who are retired, they're pensioners, and they have a Thursday murder club where they talk about unsolved murders, and sometimes they actually do get a real murder in their laps and they solve it. And it's very funny, very lighthearted, great characters. In the first book, I really liked the mystery, just didn't think it was super like executed well. And then this one, didn't love the mystery. It had to do with like missing diamonds, and I do think it was written better. I just don't love like a missing diamond plot line. But overall, I still like this. I gave it 4 stars. One thing that was kind of more obvious in this book than the first book is that these characters kind of get away with a lot that it kind of feels like I'm suspending my disbelief a little bit. They are older, so they are very much underestimated by police, by the criminals they're trying to catch. They get away with a lot, and it just seems a little too far-fetched. Like, we're bending the rules a little bit too much, especially for cops. Not that police officers don't bend the rules. They bend the rules a lot, but it's not like super logical to read a little bit in a contemporary real world setting. But I guess that's part of like the wit of the story, that they can get away with so much because they're older. They're like in their 70s. I still gave it 4 stars. Fun. I'm more eager to pick up the next books in the series. I think there's 5 in the series, and the author has written 2 books in another series. I had fun with this one, and if they're getting better at writing mysteries, then yeah, for sure, I'll pick up the next book. Next, I have Nobody's Baby by Olivia Waite. I really enjoy the series as well. This is a cozy sci-fi mystery series. It's a novella series as well. They're very short. I've read Olivia Waite before and have liked her work. This is about a detective who is solving mysteries on this giant ship that houses, I think it's like 40,000 people, and they are on a millennia-long journey from old Earth to their new home. I think this currently takes place in like the year 200 or 300 of their journey, so they have a long ways to go. One thing that's really interesting about this series is that people don't really die. There's this technology that allows you to download your consciousness into a book, and when you've lived out your life and you want to rest for some time, you can go do that, retire your body, go rest, and then come back in 5, 10, 20 years in a new body to your liking. Some of the things that they have implemented on the ship is that all bodies that you get put into are minimum 20 years old, and no one can have a child. The powers that be have decided for population control and for radiation purposes, it's best to not have children right now, so no one can have a child until one day the nephew of our main character finds a baby on his doorstep, and no one knows where this baby came from. How did someone even have a baby? Really like this mystery. This is the second book, so we've already established how the world works and characters, so everything kind of flowed like much more smoothly, and I really enjoyed it. Very fun, very witty as well. I love a witty mystery. I think that's kind of one of my favorite approaches to a mystery. It's just like a really smart, cunning. So I give this 4 stars. Really like the main character. It's also a very queer story if you're looking for something like that. Very queer normative. I could read about like 20 of these, so keep them coming. And then we have Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is my second favorite book of the month. It is very, very confusing though, and I didn't know what I was going to rate this while I was reading this. I typically have like a good idea of how I feel in the moment, but this was very convoluted. I'm settling on a 4 star, but I do have to say that the reading experience is very interesting, and I know a lot of people aren't gonna like this book. I've seen the reviews. Some people didn't even like Gideon, which is fair. You don't have to like any book, but this series is almost always described as lesbian necromancers in space, which is technically correct. The first book has like a mystery element. This second book has a kind of gearing up for a battle type element to it, and I loved Gideon, the first book in the series. I read that in April for Magical Readathon. I picked this one up because I wanted to get back into this world. I wanted to read the author's writing, which I enjoy, and I missed Gideon, which was my favorite character of the year so far. The author did everything in her power to confuse the shit out of me. I felt like the author was like deliberately trying to trip me up. There were flashbacks to book 1 in this book, and the flashbacks, never read them before, never seen them before. I thought, did I even read book 1? Because what the author is telling us in book 2, I don't remember any of this. I'm gaslighting myself. I don't know what's going on. Very interesting reading journey. I do think that it did drag a little bit, which also added to that 4-star rating, but this is very much one of those things where the vibe, the taste, the characters, the writing all works so well for me that even if the plot was kind of messy or not super tight and I was very confused, I still really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars, and I'm very excited for book 2. I can't go into so much detail about what this is about. It's a sequel, but I read this in that vlog that I've been vague posting about. I would love to see what else Tamsyn Muir writes once she's done with this series. I enjoyed it. I can see why other people don't though, and I do not blame you. And finally, my favorite book of the month is probably going to be one of my top 5 of the year, and that is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I've been wanting to get to this for quite some time because so many people love this, and I believe it's nominated for Hugo for like best novel, best debut author, though she's technically already been an author. I flew through this. The amount of time it took me to read this was so short compared to other works of this length. I really enjoyed this. I wanted it so bad to be 5 stars, but I think I'm going to settle on a 4.5. I honestly considered giving this 4.75, which I don't give 0.25 ratings. It's either 0.5 or not, but this is a very chunky book and a lot does happen here. This story follows our main character Nima, who is the high scholar for the emperor, but a majority of this book takes place when the emperor is going to step down from his reign and have a new emperor put in his place. I think emperors can only rule for like 25 years or something like that, and so when the emperor has to step down or the empress has to step down, there's a competition, and one contender from each of the houses is sent forward to compete. And I don't typically like competition books, and I'll talk about that why, because that added to the 4.5 rating. You have houses like the Raven House, Tiger, Ox, Bear, whatever have you. However, our Raven contender is murdered, and it's a person that our main character doesn't get along with. So when that Raven contender is murdered, our main character is like, I need to solve this because I don't want to be accused of the crime. So the emperor allows her to kind of lead that investigation, find out what happened to the Raven contender. And I will stop there in terms of summary. I think after that you don't really need to know much else. So there's a bit of a mystery component, there's a competition component. The reason why I gave this 4.5 stars, even though I really wanted to give it 5 stars, there's just something about competitions that nag at me. And one thing that I see a lot in competition books, and it's a big reason why I kind of critique them so much, or I'm very picky about them, is that in this book and other competition books, there's a lot of ceremony or tradition when it comes to the competition in question. In this case, this ceremony or this competition to find the new emperor or empress has been going on for hundreds of years. So there is a lot of ceremony tradition behind it. There is a whole process. Everyone kind of knows how it goes. People are very eager to see this play out. And our main character, who is a big stickler for rules, has planned this competition down to a T. She planned the opening ceremony, all this stuff goes on, and there's rules and everything. So it's supposed to run like a well-oiled machine. But like in most competitions, something goes wrong. There's a little bit of an accident, a little bit of a trip up. And I feel like when those things happen, there should also be tradition or ceremony or rules behind that. And sometimes in these competition books, they solve these little trip ups, these little accidents, these little scuffles with like an almost like hand waving, like, oh, we'll just deal with it with XYZ. And it feels not ceremonial. Like that tradition kind of goes out the window and they're kind of just like, yeah, we'll just deal with it. And it just doesn't feel super formal anymore. Just little things like that bother me for some reason when it comes to competition books. For some other people, it's like not a big deal, like shit happens, whatever. But let me see if I can pull out an example. There is a trial that one of our contenders just like misses, and they're kind of just like, yeah, I missed the trial. And it just felt very like, whatever, I miss one of the trials, I'll just work harder on the next one. And it feels very like lackluster to me. And I see that a lot in, I saw it in this competition book, but in others before, and I just really don't like that. I'm very picky about like rules and stuff. So that happened a few times here. Again, it's not like the biggest deal. Other people can probably ignore it, but I can't. I don't know why. But I still really enjoyed it. The characters, the main character, I love Nima. She is so charming and I want to protect her. I also really grew to love a lot of the minor characters. A lot of minor characters stood out. I had sympathy for characters that I did not think I would have sympathy for. This author has a kind of crime mystery background, and I definitely think that helped formulate this story. They had that background and it really like helped with this. Yeah, really fun. The last 100 pages were so thrilling to read. I'm very excited to see what the next book in this trilogy has to offer. Also, if you really like a character that like haunts the narrative, I see that thrown around a lot, I think this is a contender for that as well. I really like how the author brought up this big plot point that happened at the beginning of the story over and over, and how it still has ramifications until like the end of the book. I thought that was really well done. A lot of aspects of this book were really well done. I really enjoyed this. I can see why so many people like it. I can see why it was nominated for so many things, including the Hugo. My voice is going because I've been filming this and TikToks all morning. So I need to wrap this up, but really good. Highly recommend. 4.5. So I think I had a pretty mixed reading month. I had some highs and I had some lows, But yeah, let me know what you think about the books that I read this month. What were your worst books of the month? What were your best books of the month? I would like to hear anything you have to say in the comments down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. If you don't know what to say, you can just leave an emoji. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.